we can't get these kids to do anything. So I want to introduce the concept of a speciality.
Okay.
Because dyslexic kids, as a general rule, are academic specialists, not generalists. Let me give you an example.
Hi, my name is Christine Siddons, and welcome to the One Tough Mama podcast. And today I want to talk about dyslexia. Dyslexia touches as many as 15 to 20% of all learners. Yet most families still hear, wait, and see. My guest flips the script as Dyslexia Professor. He translates structured literacy methods proven to be most effective for struggling readers into bite-sized actions that parents can use tonight. You will leave knowing exactly what multisensory routines beat generic worksheets and how to start seeing progress before the next report card. Welcome to the One Tough Mama podcast, Russell Van Brocklen.
Thanks for having me.
All right, great. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the field of dyslexia and all that you're going to share with us?
Well, just so you know, this is the absolutely last thing I was ever supposed to do with my life. When I ran into my old high school teachers, they absolutely had. So this is the last thing we ever expect you to be doing, especially with somebody with writing as horrible as mine. So what happened was it was the late 90s. I was finishing up college and I just wanted to know how laws were created. Now, some class I wanted to know. So I signed up for the New York State Assembly internship program. And I go up there and I say, here's my neuropsychological evaluation. I have a first grade reading and writing level. And the director kind of freaked out because back then you had the elected official, the chief of staff, who generally used to be intern a year or two before, and then the intern. And that's all they had to run the office through most of the session. Well, obviously, I would have just messed up everything. So the director goes to the speaker's office and they say, you're not getting rid of this kid because he's dyslexic. So they got this committee together of all their senior people, and they came up with a really tough decision. They took me out of the legislative office building because a big part of the internship was being around your peers, and they put me over into a distant building, the Capitol, in the Majority Leaders Program and Council's office that ran the assembly day to day. I went in there. I can see why they did it. They had 3 administrative assistants that could help with my atrocious writing. So, but they didn't know what to do with an undergrad, so I was treated like a graduate student, which was great, which is a much higher level position. And then for the academic portion, I gave a multi-hour presentation instead of a paper and a long question and answer session. So they put that up into a report and they recommended it. They sent it back to the State University of New York's flagship campus, SUNY Center at Buffalo, and their into the political science department. They looked at these absolutely massive accommodations and says, we don't like those. So we're going to lower the recommended grade A- for 15 credits. Guess what they lowered it to?
I have no idea.
Well, they flunked me. They gave me 15 credits of F.
Oh, wow.
Yes, only time in the history of the program. And that was 29 years ago. And it's
Wow.
still there.
Oh, wow.
So I got upset. And I said, I went to the professors I still liked, and I said, how do I force myself to read and write so I can show other dyslexics in grad school so nobody else goes through the discrimination I just went through?
Right.
So they said, well, if you like political science, law school, where you read and write more than anybody. So I went to law school with a first grade reading and writing level.
Wow.
I forced myself to learn to read somewhat before I started classes. Second day in contracts, the professor called on me. His name was Professor Warner. He was a professor for over 30 years. So the issue is in law school, what they do if you don't know the answer when they ask you a question, which is almost everybody the first couple of weeks, they ask you more questions to embarrass you until you adapt. It's called the Socratic method.
Wow.
Well, that didn't happen to me. I didn't answer as a student. I answered as his equal. We make very clear on this. I answered as his equal. For 15 minutes, we went back and forth. I couldn't beat him. He couldn't beat me.
Mm.
Finally, after 15 minutes, he threw up his arms, said, "Russell, it couldn't be any more correct. I have to move on to the next case in the interest of time." I learned to read within a month. I learned to write within a couple of years. Then I went back to the New York State Senate and I said, "I want you to fund my dyslexia research program," which they don't do. After
Mm.
years working with the New York State Education Department, senior professors in Western New York, and the SUNY Research Foundation, I finally got approval. And that was a multi-year funding in a local public school district outside of Albany, New York, called the Averill Park Central School District. We took everybody, as everybody knows, I kind of cheated here. I took students who were like me, very motivated, very intelligent, and there were juniors and seniors writing at the middle school level. One class period a day for the school year, we gave them the graduate records exam analytical writing assessment. We showed them how to do well on that test. They went from the 0 percentile generally at the beginning to the 30th to 70th percentile at the end. So they
Okay.
had the writing skills of college graduates before they started. They all went on to college. They all graduated, GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6. It cost the New York State of taxpayers less than $900 a student.
Hmm.
We were 3 times more successful than the best dyslexic college at the time for less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I got started.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm glad that you took what could have been a downfall, a hardship for you, and you took it and turned it around, and now you're reaching and helping probably a multitude of people. I appreciate that.
Well, that's where, but when I presented in New York City, I ran into 2 problems.
Okay.
I told a bunch of professors, and I went in there, I was pretty cocky because I said, I just had 2 students in the last year score in approximately the 70th percentile of entering grad students in high school, and they're
Mhm.
dyslexic. And their response was, "We don't care. We want the craft of research." I was like, "What's the craft of research?" It's a book that was published in 1995 by the University of Chicago to help their PhD students write their doctoral dissertations.
Mm.
Since then, it's sold over 1 million copies. By far the number 1 book in that category. And I said, "You want me to teach dyslexic high school kids to essentially do graduate level research skills in high school? Context, get everybody on the same page, problem statement, and then a unique solution." And they said, "Yes." I
Mm.
said, "Okay." Then the teachers asked, "Does this process that you just created work for normal kids?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, come back when you figure that out." 8 years later, I came back.
Mm.
So that was fun. So the first thing is, as a parent of, you have a couple of dyslexic kids.
Yes.
Um, I usually get the biggest complaint is in elementary school, they're writing a bunch of apparently randomly placed misspelled words.
Hmm. Right.
How old are your kids?
So the oldest one, he's almost 18, but he
Okay.
also has cerebral palsy and a couple of other disabilities. And then my other son is 13, and he also has other learning disabilities as well, but dyslexia is one of them.
Okay. Are they able to write basic sentences now, or is that still a problem?
So my 17-year-old, no. Um, he's 17, but his academic level is more pre-K, kindergarten
Okay.
level. And then my 13-year-old, he has improved so much.
Mhm.
He's been able to go from reading like a pre-K kindergarten level to 4th grade level.
Okay.
And he's writing, I mean, I don't even know if he didn't have dyslexia or anything. I don't even think he would be a writer. So to get him to write anything is kind of challenging. But he can write complete sentences, a paragraph worth of it.
Okay. So what we need to do is your oldest son needs to be able to learn how to write basic 3 reason sentences, and
Hmm.
your younger son and your oldest son, we need to get to do basic and more evolved body paragraphs.
Right.
Okay. What if I told you I could tell you how to do all that within an hour?
Oh, wow. Please tell me.
Okay. So let's go back to the basic sentences. Let's look at what the problem is. Are you familiar with this book, Overcoming Dyslexia by Dr. Sally Shaywitz from Yale?
No.
Okay. This is the book in my field.
Okay.
All right. Because it's brain scans. This came out in 2003. This is the second edition. Page 78, figure 23.
Okay.
That's dyslexia.
Mm.
Now, do you see how the back part of your brain has this massive neural activity? but the back
Right.
part of my brain has next to nothing.
Right.
Now, do you see how the front part of my brain has about 2.5 times the neural activity?
Yes.
Okay, so this is not complicated. What we need to do is the back part of the brain, we need to take that stuff that's not working and move it up here,
Okay.
where it's 2.5 times the neural activity. According to Yale, this is done by word analysis followed by articulation. So, do you want to use the names of your kids, or do you want to make up new names to protect their identity?
I'll call them I and N.
Okay, so if you're 18-year-old, make up a name for
I.
him. It's going to I. Okay. So what is I's speciality? What is his area of extreme interest and ability?
So he also has autism. So
Mhm.
he can memorize dates on calendars and build crazy stuff with Legos. But
Okay.
dates, like he could tell you what, if you say my birthday is blah, 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 he'll tell you what day of the week it is this year
Okay.
without even looking at
So
my calendar.
so he loves Legos.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to do is, if you're teaching him this process, you're going to pull out just a normal laptop computer with a real keyboard.
Okay.
Not an iPad, not an iPhone, certainly not handwriting, on a laptop with a real keyboard. And
Okay.
you're going to type out hero plus sign. What are we talking about? Then we're going to replace, then he's going to type out the same thing. You may have heard that copying's bad. It's okay. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default Writing Strategy Copying. So then you're going to replace hero, because we got hero plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to replace hero for I.
Okay.
So we got his name. So we got I plus sign. What are we talking about? Then you're going to create a list for each one of them. 10 things that they really, really like, and then 10 things they really, really hate.
Okay.
We're going to then go and take the thing he likes the most, which is Legos. So we got I plus sign. What are we talking about? We're going to replace what are we talking about with Legos. So we
Okay.
got I plus sign Legos. See how we got there?
Right.
Now I'm going to try to fool you with two of the simplest questions you will ever be asked. If you
Okay.
follow them exactly, this will work. If you don't, people have an epiphany in what dyslexia really is. Do you
Okay.
think I can fool you with the two simplest questions you'll ever be asked?
Probably, but let's see. But I'm game.
Okay. Just try to answer them exactly. So we
Okay.
got I plus sign Legos. We need to replace the plus sign with a word to make a sentence. So here's my question. Does I like or dislike Legos?
I likes Legos.
But that's not what I asked.
He likes Legos.
No, let me go back. We have
Okay.
I plus sign Legos. We need to replace the plus sign with a word. Here's my question. Does I like or dislike Legos?
Like.
Perfect. Now
Okay.
go ahead, replace that word with the plus sign. What's the 3-word sentence?
I like Legos.
Okay, do you see what happened? Do you see the difference between that one where you got it right in the first time?
Yes.
What was it?
Well, for me, I thought too far ahead. And so I didn't just listen to every word you said and just replace that one word, the plus.
Do you see how the first time you took the word, you just made it likes, you auto-corrected and made it a proper sentence?
Right.
But the second time I asked like, and then that's what you put in, and it's now an improper sentence because there's not an S at the end of likes or end of like.
Correct.
That's exactly it. Because initially you auto-corrected. So what's happening is in your brain, let's go back to the science. This is your
Mhm.
brain. All that neural activity, that's what you're supposed to do. That's what educated people do.
Okay.
Okay. But I is dyslexic. There's nothing going on back here. He doesn't know how to add the S.
Mm,
So now we have to figure out, how do we get I to add the S? Well, if
okay.
you have $10 million sitting in the bank, you could go to the Windward School in Manhattan with a 98% success rate of taking your kids and giving them the best education on the planet. 4 or 5 years later, they'll send them back absolutely great, as best they can be helped. 75,000 a year and there's the student to teacher ratio is 4 or 5 to 1. Most parents don't have that type of money sitting around.
Mhm.
So here's how we fix it using modern neuroscience. I would say, because we now have, I would say, I like Legos, I read that out loud and I'll ask, does that sound generally correct? Like Legos. He would say no. And I would say, fix it. I likes Legos.
Hmm.
And they would practice that with the 10 likes and 10 dislikes. So do
Okay.
you see how asking about like and dislike and then reading it out loud, does it sound generally correct? Can you see how that's a simple form of word analysis?
Yes.
Okay. Then we're going to go because reason one. Tell me a simple reason why I likes Legos.
Uh, he has a very engineering type of a mind. So he likes to
Yep.
build. And what he does is we go to church a lot. So he'll
Hmm.
build a lot of churches. And then if we go to somewhere new, he'll build whatever place we went new. So he's acting out what he sees in his mind through Legos.
So I likes Legos because he likes building churches. Something
Correct.
like that. Okay.
Right.
Now, can you see how the reasons after because are a simple form of articulation?
Yes.
Now we're taking things back here where nothing's going on, and we're moving them up here where we have 2.5 times the neural activity.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Okay. So, but when we say that I likes Legos because he likes building churches, do you see how we now have a mess of misspelled words?
Yes.
Okay. Here's how you fix that. What you do is you tell him I to first read what he wrote out loud and does it sound generally correct? And if it doesn't, keep reading it out loud and fixing it until it does sound generally correct. That removes the nasty, horrendous grammar mistakes. And as a homeschooling mom, or if they're in public school or private school, it's a lot easier to teach the little grammar mistakes and the medium ones. It's hard as heck to do the catastrophic ones, which are now gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And a lot of the medium ones are gone too. So then the next thing you do is you say, the first time until that's done, we don't care about spelling. Then after that's done, every time he misspells a word, you tell he has to retype everything until it's correct.
Mm.
And that'll happen about 3 to 13 times. Okay. Each time he messes up, he's going to say, I'm not going to make that mistake. And he's going to keep making it. And
Oh,
he's going to concentrate deeper and deeper each time not to make that mistake until eventually it's incredibly deep. And he's going to finally get it right.
okay.
And then you're going to practice that for 10 likes and 10 dislikes until everything is spelled correct for reason one. Then reason one and reason two, all 10 likes and dislikes completely spelled correctly. If you keep making mistakes, keep repeating it until it's spelled correctly. And then reason one, reason two, and reason three, same thing.
Mm.
Now we've gone from randomly placed misspelled words to decent grammar, correct spelling, 3 reason sentences. Does that make sense?
Yes. So for every misspelled word, they need to retype the whole
Retype
sentence.
the whole sentence. Okay. It
Okay.
is pure, massive repetition
Right.
because I'll get to that, why we're doing that in a second. But first of all, we're going to run into the problem that we can't get these kids to do anything. So I want to introduce the concept of a speciality
Okay.
because dyslexic kids, as a general rule, are academic specialists, not generalists. Let me give you an example. The most motivated kid I ever worked with was Casey. And just so you know, I never saw this before Casey. I will never see this again. This was a offshoot of just pure motivational madness. Casey was 10 years old at the end of 5th grade. She turned 11 over the summertime. She was reading and writing at the 2nd grade level, and she was phenomenally interested in Theodore Roosevelt.
Mm.
So I assigned her this little book, The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. All 900 pages.
Wow.
That book is at the 10th grade to first year college level, depending on who you ask. Let's just call it 10th grade. It won the
Right.
Pulitzer. I tell Casey, I always do writing first because if you can write it, you can read it. If you can
Mhm.
write it, you can read it. Casey was like, no, I'm doing reading first. So I was like, okay, here's how you do reading first. Work with your mom, 10, 20-minute sessions, a couple times a week. I'll check in on you once a week. I didn't know Casey. She essentially locked herself in a room for 3 hours a night for 6 months, most of the days during the summertime.
Mm.
So you could literally, after that time, flip to that page and point to that word, and she would tell you the dictionary definition,
Wow.
literally verbatim.
Wow.
She jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months.
That's amazing.
It is, yeah. And I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
Wow.
Okay. Now, Casey, her mom asked, what happens if we move to a book that she hates? So I assigned her this little book, Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, all 1,000 pages of it. She
Right.
hated this book, even though it's my most popular. There's 2 universal themes that make the Disney magic in their theme parks. The first one's easy to find. The second one takes my kids 1 to 3 years to find, in which case they're reading like a 17-year-old. Casey did in 3 months. Why am I spending all this time on this? So I asked Casey, when you moved for something that you loved to something you hated, how much did your motivation drop? From the most motivated kid I ever worked with, she said about 50%.
Mhm.
When I asked typical dyslexic kids, they dropped 75 to 90%.
Right.
So I want you to think about this. Remember back in high school, you had to do 5, 10 books a year or whatever it was?
Right.
Each of these books is almost certainly outside the kid's speciality, or the vast majority of them. And then they're going to go from loving something that they like in their speciality to completely, as you know, with your kids, they don't want to do anything outside of their interests. Is that about
Right.
right?
Yes.
Exactly. So the first thing you need to do during the intervention period only, until we get them to grade level, is you have to focus on their speciality.
Okay.
No, step 2, if you remember what I said when you ask a dyslexic, if you, in your speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed but with little to no organization? They're going to say yes. That's what's
Uh-huh.
happening in the front part of the brain. So what we have to do is we have to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output.
Oh,
So we have to force the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output.
okay.
Okay. So if we ask this question to a dyslexic, so imagine Bill Gates paid you $100,000 to go and write this essay. What effect did Martin Luther King's famous I Have a Dream speech have on the American civil rights movement in the 1960s? You just know what to do, how to go about it. You can just go to the research library and just do it, right?
Right.
Okay. You ask that to a dyslexic, it's like grabbing fog. There's
Right.
nothing to connect it to it. We have no place to go because our brain's just so scattered. It's just jumping around. There's no organization. So we have to start off by forcing the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. So we start with a very specific point and then we go outwards. So we ask, what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? Once we
Okay.
find that answer in this bio, then we got the answer. That answer gives us a question, which gives us an answer, which gives us a question, which gives us an answer. That forces the brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output.
Mm.
So what's the solution? What we do is we work with a kid's speciality. We teach them from the specific to the general, and then word analysis followed by articulation. You do that during the intervention period, and it's wildly successful. And I would have moms ask me, well, how successful? And I could never tell you because of the hundreds and hundreds of clients I've worked with, none wanted to share their story until December 27th of 2024 when I met Kimberly on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Kimberly is a very religious homeschooling mom. She has some college, and she had properly taught her son Reed's brothers and sisters to read properly with standard methods. Actually excelled at it. But she failed with her son Reed, who is in 5th grade, reading fifth grade dyslexic kid who was 10 years old, and she felt ashamed that she just completely failed with him.
Uh-huh.
So I said, she said, you can use me as an example. So she just so happened a few weeks before this had the state of Ohio test her son. And what happened was he was reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the 4th percentile. She worked with Reed on average of an hour and a half a week for the rest of the school year, 5.5, 6 months. I worked with her for half an hour a week. Most parents do 10 to 15 minute sessions a couple times a week. At the end of that time, he had a big jump, and I'm not going to tell you the results, because over the summer, his friends came to Reed and said, we want you in public school. Be with us socially, in class, for lunch, socially.
Oh,
If that
wow.
was January, he would have been placed in special ed, away from his friends, unhappy kid. But
Right.
beginning of August, 8 months, 8.5 months later, he was retested inside a public school. So this is better data. His
Mhm.
reading jumped from the 11th percentile to the 64th percentile.
Wow.
His That was his reading. His writing jumped from the 4th percentile to the 65th. His grammar jumped to the 97th
Oh,
percentile.
wow.
Okay.
That's big.
Mom did this, not some private dyslexic school. What happened in the real world? For the next semester, Reed was getting generally A's and B's in a typical school,
Hmm.
normal classes. Did he rebel? Absolutely. And this is how it was handled. Do you remember when you were raising your kids between like 1 and 4 and you kept telling them no all the time?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because you wanted them to grow up to be good people and not entitled. Okay.
Correct.
When
Mhm.
I call that raising a well raised child. When that happened to Reed, he fought back because he had to not do what's in his speciality, which was we focused on Logan from X-Men. Now he had to do all this stuff he didn't like. So
Right.
I told his mom and his teachers just to be a wall. And what happened when your kids were around 10 or 11 and they kept wanting to do something and you just said no and just stood firm, what happened?
I mean, it depends on the kid, but most of them, they finally realize, like, I know this is a no. We're not going to do it.
Yes, and then they just fall in and they just do what they so that's what happened to Reed.
Okay.
Okay. So we did that, but now for your kids, I showed you how to do the basic sentences,
Uh-huh.
but now we have to do a basic body paragraph and a body paragraph that more at the high school level. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So because if you can do body paragraphs, if you can do one, you can do three. If you can do three, then you know how to do a thesis statement, a conclusions paragraph. That's all we need to to get the writing up to something that's functional. So when I'm looking at this is my version of context from the craft of research. So what we do is we do context, problem statement, original solution. So this is just the context, getting people on the same page. So in teaching that, the best thing I can do is try to show you how to use universal themes. And the best way to teach that, just so people understand why I do what I do, I use movies as a review. So have you gone to that many movies in your lifetime at any point?
Some, yes.
Okay. I want you to think of one of your favorite movies of all time that you think is one of the best ever made, that everybody has seen, that you
Oh,
are intimately familiar with. You know it really well. What's the name of that movie?
did you know that the majority of diaper companies out there are not pro-life? They are actually pro-abortion. They fund abortion, support abortions. So that means when you go buy regular name brand diapers or big box store diapers, part of your money is going to fund abortions. But I recently heard about this company who's very pro God, pro life, pro women, pro baby. They are called Every Life because every life matters. And they not only sell diapers and wipes, you can get a subscription, you can buy one time, they're non-toxic. You can also buy women products. And so I recently made a purchase and I bought some women's products and I was very pleased with them. They come compact, so they're very discreet. And then also I purchased some diapers for my daughter and her baby. And my daughter was very pleased with the diapers. So if you want to support life, support babies, go to Every Life. I will leave the link in the show notes and support life. I mean, I'm honestly not that good at remembering a lot of the movies.
I'm talking
Um,
about the one like you're like, this is really good. People have seen it. You still remember pretty well. What's the best one you could think of in that?
for me, it would be Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. Okay. Do you
Yeah.
remember it pretty well?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you something that your kids are going to be much better at. And I'm going to, again, go back to the science. We're
Okay.
now going to be doing, here's the brain again. We're
Right.
going to be doing what's in the front part of the brain. And they got 2.5 times the neural activity for that.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
I want you to tell me in the Sound of Music one universal theme, one word that best represents the entire movie.
Just one theme?
Just one word. Yes, I'm not making this easy on you.
Right, because I'm like, I have lots of things. Um, Fun.
Fun. Okay. Now, I want you to remember when you were reading movie reviews in like the New York Times, Washington Post, most likely from some Ivy League educated person, where they would say, for this movie, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's like giving you the score of a sporting match before you watch a tape of it. They ruin it. Sound
Correct.
familiar?
Yes.
Okay. An eighth grader could write that.
Mhm.
Here's how you do it properly. You take your universal theme of fun, and then you say, how did the actors do with that universal theme?
Okay.
Mention specific actors. How did the director do? How did the screenwriter do? And then you write up your review that way.
Right.
So you're telling the audience what you think in a very high-end intellectual way so they can really get a feeling for your thoughts about the movie. And they can say, do I want to see it or not? And
Mhm.
then, but you're not ruining it for them.
Correct.
Okay. Here's the problem with that approach. Do you see how the universal theme of fun is so broad? It's really hard to laser focus. You can get a broad focus, but you can't get a laser focus.
Right.
So here's how we fix that. So, first thing we have to do is to get the kids to write a basic paragraph, just as basic as you can get. And we're
Mhm.
aiming for a C to B minus level. Okay, just to get them something that's workable. We're pulling them out of the abyss. So how we do that, and I'm just going to use this for English class, all
Mhm.
right, because that's the worst thing for most dyslexics. So in any Shakespearean type writing, you have a hero. The hero wants to do something which is associated with a universal theme, and then there's an optimum villain that is designed to prevent the hero, a person or a concept, from accomplishing their goals. They have a conflict, and that conflict builds and builds until it's resolved in Act 3.
Right.
Okay? Very, very basic. So, let's do that when we're writing about a piece of literature. So, we have a hero.
Uh-huh.
Hero wants to do something, and now you write out what the hero wants to do. If a kid can write a 3 reason sentence, they can write one sentence.
Uh-huh.
Or you might write a paragraph or bunch of paragraphs. For each sentence, you're going to pick your most important word. Then as you're going down all the sentences you wrote, you're going to pick out the most important word for each sentence, and then you're going to figure out which one is the best, most important word from everything. And that's your base universal theme. Problem. Just like fun, when you're trying to write your review of The Sound of Music, it's really broad. You
Uh-huh.
can't laser focus. So how do we do that? We then have you take that word, that base universal theme, and you type out the word, then you go to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, you have the kid find the definition that best fits in their head, and they type out the definition. And I can hear parents now, but my kids won't do that. And you are correct if you're outside their speciality.
Uh-huh.
If you're inside their speciality, they will.
Right.
Okay? Because this is what I tell the kids. We just go back to the brain science. Front part
Mhm.
of the brain is 2.5 times. Here's my question to these kids. How can you apply word analysis if you don't know what the word means? Deeply, intimately, custom to you. Well, you can't. Well, exactly. This
Uh-huh.
is how I show you to read, because as you type out the word and the definition, I don't know if it's 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. I have no clue. At some point, you will know that word and that definition.
Right.
And as we go through this, time and time again, you're going to develop a vocabulary of hundreds of evolved words. You will have things jump up like crazy. And I tell these kids, they're 10 to 12 doing this, that when they're 16 or 17 taking their SATs or their ACTs, you have to get hundreds of words you have to know. My kids don't, because they did
Right.
this at 11. They remember 70, 80% of what the definition is.
Wow.
Okay. And they're like, oh, I get to be better readers and writing than other kids. And I was like, yes, that
Yeah.
really gets them going. So we then go through, when we look at the synonyms of your base universal theme, you can do 5, 10, the whole level, multiple levels, whatever the teacher and student decide together. Let's say it's 5 or 10. You go through, you type out the word, you type out the definition. If they don't know exactly what it is from Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, you absolutely must keep your kid from copying and pasting because then it's worthless. It's
Uh-huh.
more than worthless. So you do it the right way. Then you find the word that whose definition best matches what's in their head.
Okay.
Okay. That is something now we can focus like a laser. That's our post universal theme. And then we can find our ultimate villain, which is a person or a concept. I
Right.
usually start off with persons and then move to concepts. Who is best positioned best positioned to prevent the hero from accomplishing their goals?
Uh-huh.
So now we have our hero, our universal theme, and our optimum villain separated by two plus signs. I asked the kid, does this sound generally correct? No, fix it. The plus signs are Dr. Collins' default writing strategy of visualization. They symbolize you probably need to add some words, subtract some words, or move something around to make this
Uh-huh.
work, make this sound correct. So we do that into a basic sentence. Do you see how that's an evolved form of word analysis?
Yes.
Okay, that's up front. Then we go because give me 3 of the best reasons you can. Now, for the simple body paragraph, for each reason, now I'm going to show you an evolved form of articulation. What you're going to do is for that reason, you're going to take that reason, turn it into one simple universal theme. Then we'd go to the script of the sound of music, assuming that's what the kid's really interested in. And
Uh-huh.
we're going to find a one sentence universal theme. We're going to find one sentence that deals directly with that universal theme. Then we're going to take that sentence and we're going to answer the following questions: who, what, when, where, how, why. They don't
Uh-huh.
have to be exact. You don't have to spend 3 hours in the research library. If you think the movie happened in like 1860 or whatever, if you're
Right.
a decade off, who cares?
Right.
Okay. Just you try to ballpark it. So you answer all those questions. You have the quote, plus sign who, plus sign all the answers to all those things. Then what you do is I tell the kid, read it out loud without the plus signs. Does that sound generally correct? And they laugh and they say, no. And I say, okay, rearrange this so it makes the most sense to you. Read it out loud. Does it sound correct? No. Fix it until the whole paragraph does, piece by piece. Now you have a C to B minus level paragraph.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay. We do that for the second and third paragraphs, and then you practice that until they got it down, and then you show them how to do a thesis statement and conclusion. There's your basic 5 paragraph essay.
Wow.
Now, if they're in school, their gen ed teachers can start to work with them.
Uh-huh.
But you have, like, your kids are past, 10, 11. We
Right.
need to now move to something that's more at the high school level.
Uh-huh.
So, what we're going to need to do is add something that people outside of a PhD program, almost nobody with a master's degree and below have any idea what this is. But do you remember back in school, you would have your topic sentence,
Uh-huh.
then you would have your data, be it statistics, be it a quote, multiple quotes, whatever. And that when you tried to go from your topic sentence to the data, it never flowed too well. Do you remember that?
Right. Right.
Okay. Have you ever thought of applying a warrant to a body paragraph?
I never heard the term.
Outside of a PhD program, almost nobody has.
Okay, good.
So this is where we start showing middle and high school dyslexic kids to write what university professors think is at the college level. A warrant is how you connect a topic sentence with your data by providing a how and why, answering a how and why question
Uh-huh.
as a connection. So here's how we do this. Now we've done initially, the kids know how to find a quote. We're going to go back and expand that to make this thing going from 5th grade to high school. What we're
Uh-huh.
going to specifically do is once we go back to that good reason, we're going to go back. Now we have one quote. We use that basic universal theme. We look for a one sentence quote from the beginning of the script or the piece of writing and one near the end
Okay.
for each paragraph. So now we have 2 quotes. So then we use those 2 quotes to form our topic sentence. And then we connect those 2 quotes with a warrant by answering a how and why question. We can just use one warrant because both quotes are based on the same universal theme. So we have our topic sentence, We answer how and why question in our 2 quotes. Now, when we have a paid course where we explain how to do a lot of other things at the end of that paragraph that make it a lot stronger based on the craft of research, but that's the basics.
Uh-huh.
Just that is so powerful that if a university professor reads that paragraph, they're looking at that and saying, oh, that kid's using a warrant. This must be at the college level.
Huh.
Now, here's the fun part. I typically have kids doing this at age 12. It
Uh-huh.
is very common for them to have older brothers and sisters who are not dyslexics who are fighting to be valedictorian.
Uh-huh.
In one case, the dyslexic kid was in 7th grade, 12 years old, and now he's writing body paragraphs with warrants. His older brother's a senior, AP English, okay,
Uh-huh.
fighting to be valedictorian. And a professor looked at the 7th grader and said, wow, this kid's writing a warrant. This paragraph is technically more involved than his AP English high school senior brother,
Huh.
who's writing much better flowing sentences, much better word choice,
Uh-huh.
obviously better, but his younger brother's writing a technically more evolved paragraph because he's using warrants. And the older brother's like, but I'm the better writer. And he starts getting frustrated. And I
Mhm.
talked to the 7th grader and I said, yes, isn't that beautiful?
Right.
It gives him a huge jump because he's like, can I ever beat my older brother in clarity, word choice, and sentence structure? I said, probably not, but you
Uh-huh.
can, for now, do technically more evolved paragraphs. It's
Right.
something,
Right.
okay? And that gives them a huge ego boost.
Right.
So that's how you do all that, and I explained to you that general process in under 45 minutes.
Right. Yes, I'm definitely gonna re-listen and take notes and start applying this with my boys for sure.
Yes. So, and that's, but people ask, wow, so is that all you do? I said, no, that's just context.
Uh-huh.
And to give you an example with the problem statement and solution, that is far more complicated. And this doesn't just apply to dyslexics. So to give you an example, I'm working with a 10-year-old boy. His name is Grayson, and he's not dyslexic in the least. He's in
Uh-huh.
the 99th percentile in math and science.
Uh-huh.
He wants to get he wants to get his PhD and work for NASA to terraform Mars.
Wow.
He's 10. So
Wow.
I had a report created for him on the history of Mars that based on just peer-reviewed PhD level stuff. I made it 9th grade reading, 12th grade context, and that was just right for him. He's 10.
Uh-huh.
So then I was like, okay, his dad is working with him on what we discussed, and he's obviously picking that up really fast because he's just a brilliant kid who's not dyslexic. They pick it up a lot faster. Dyslexics tend to go a lot deeper. So then for the problem statement, I had to find something we could actually do that where there's a need for it, answering a question that actually matters. And I found out, oh, here's a journal specifically on this that'll accept publications, submissions from junior people. They're thinking graduate students, not
Uh-huh.
elementary school kids. Okay. And they have an eyeball one that needs to be done. It's basically doing a literature review of what's happened with terraforming Mars because it hasn't been done in the last 14 years. So that's what we're looking at for a problem statement and for a solution. So we have to update that. And then what I'm looking to do is once we finish that, I'm going to send Grayson up to a senior professor after we submit his article for publication, which it will be refused because anybody but the most senior professors usually get rejected and have to go back and forth in the editing process. So then he gets to go up to a senior professor and says, I submitted my article for publication. These are the problems I need to work out. Can I work with you on this?
Uh-huh.
And he'll probably be somewhere in middle school, late middle school by that time.
Right.
That ought to have a very interesting reaction.
Right. Right. That's amazing. So for parents who are just wondering if their child has dyslexia, what are some of the signs to look for and how would they get them tested or how would they know if their child has dyslexia or not?
Well, for boys and girls, it's completely different. For
Okay.
boys, you can pretty much tell because they're going to have bad reactions when you force them to try to do something they just can't really do. They have
Right.
outbursts. Uh, they're not quiet about it.
Mm.
Girls tend to be much quieter about it and just tend to take it and try to be be nice about it.
Oh,
How you can tell is if they're just not writing much, if they're not reading much. So there's two ways to go about solving this. The first one is if you're in kindergarten, smartest thing you can do is not wait. Contact Yale, okay? Just Google Yale and dyslexia. And then you contact them and they'll say, how do I get my kid test in kindergarten for dyslexia? And they'll say it's like 30 or 50 bucks, whatever it is. The teacher can do it. It's inexpensive. And they can tell you your school how to do this. If you actually do that, then you're like, oh, your kid's dyslexic. Now,
mhm,
how do we fix this? Well, we've only known how to do this for decades and decades. There
mhm.
are Yale is not the only clearinghouse, it's just one of the best known.
Okay.
So you ask them, what program should we use for kindergarten kids to get them at grade level by the end of third grade? Because K through 3, we learn to read. Fourth and above, we read to learn. And if
Mhm.
you follow that, your kid is going to be reading at the end of third grade or close to it. They'll be
Okay.
fine.
Mhm.
If you don't do that and you wait until you're in fourth grade, I'm going to tell you exactly what happens. The head of the New York State Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Brad Hoylman Segal, he's a Rhodes Scholar from Oxford, a Harvard Law grad, and he found out that his daughter Sylvia was dyslexic in fourth grade. And they said, well, if you did this in kindergarten, like, obvious, everybody should, the school should be doing this, it's not that hard to fix based on the process I just gave you.
Mhm.
But now in fourth grade, now that she moved to at fourth grade, you read to learn. Now it's a $75,000 a year private school for 4 to 5 years. And he spent $8,000 on the kid's neuropsych. His family can support it. He looked at this and said, this is ridiculous. So he wanted everybody to have access to this. So the New York State did this massive, they spent a year of the 100 best people in the state on dyslexia to come up with a report on how to solve things with best current technology. It's if you go and Google Dyslexia Task Force Report, New York State Education Department, you'll find it.
Okay.
Well, then they tried to implement it. Now, remember, I'm in New York State. What state are you in?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay. We have higher taxes than everybody, including California.
Wow.
Nobody beats us on taxes.
Wow. I'm sorry.
We spend, yeah, we spend more per kid. I think we average about $32,000 a year for a Gen Ed kid.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Dyslexics add another 20,000 to that. We
Right.
spend more than anybody. And we tried to pass those recommendations last year, and we can't because the state can't afford it.
Uh,
Teachers can't take weeks and weeks of training. So I met up with Evelyn Whitebay, who's on the Dyslexia Task Force, one of the 3 or 4 teachers. She was so good that her dyslexic kids were passing the English language art exam at a higher rate in her district than the Gen Ed kids, who
uh,
normally outperform special ed kids by five times the amount.
wow. Yeah.
So we can go in and teach a school district what I just taught you
Uh-huh.
fully and thoroughly in 6 hours.
Wow.
Good luck trying to get into public schools. I train New York State public school teachers at the Everyone Reading Conference in New York City every year. This is my 12th time. But trying to get it into the school districts, it is such a crazy pain in the neck. I just tell parents it's just easier to do what Kimberly did. Work on just solve it yourself.
Yeah. And that's sad that they are not wanting to invest in their kids. The
Well, I
pub-
mean, it's just they're so wedded to things that just
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong. That's dyslexia. Maybe we focus on what the kids are really good at instead of doing stuff where they got nothing going on.
Right. Right.
Okay. Let me try to give you an analogy of that. The sport that I am horrible at is basketball. What
Mhm.
sport are you just the worst at?
I am not athletic at all. So
Okay.
all of the above.
No, just pick one.
Basketball too.
Basketball. Okay. So let's say we got you. This is like accommodating a dyslexic. We're going to accommodate the back part of your brain where you got next to nothing going on. All right.
Okay.
If we got you the best basketball coach on the planet for 6 months and you had nothing else to do.
Uh-huh.
All right. And then we gave you the best equipment in the world. And we're going to have your competitor, who's an excellent basketball player, we're going to give them used Walmart equipment.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to, does it matter?
Probably not in my case.
Exactly, because your body is not designed to play basketball.
Right.
Just like the dyslectic's brain is not designed to do this basic, make everybody rounded educated. We just want to specialize. So to give you an example, in my case, remember when I told you how I went to law school the first time I was called on, I was just equal for 15 minutes?
Right.
When I had to go and I had to go and get my material. I had to go and be tested by a SUNY distinguished professor in psychology to say that there was something here. The education part wasn't going to do nothing. It just so
Right.
happened the woman who gave me that original diagnosis was a distinguished professor in psychology, because there's only two in Western New York.
Huh.
So after that, I was told I had to connect this to current research. There was only one professor that I could realistically go to. Professor James Collins had $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Education Department and wrote strategies for struggling writers. I had to extend his research from mild dyslexia to severe dyslexia. People said it was going to take years, if ever. He's really hard.
Oh,
How long do you think it took me to get him to approve my research?
6 months?
Under 2 weeks.
Oh, well. Okay.
Okay. Then I was funded by the university for $15,000.
Uh-huh.
Then after that, I was funded by the state for multiple years, which was we presented in '06 in New York City. The key thing is dyslectics. What I found is when you're in our specialty, that's what graduate school is. We are top of our class day one or soon thereafter, because
Huh.
we've been in this forever. So let's take for your two kids, your 18-year-old and your 13-year-old. Do you think one of them might go on to college one of these days?
Probably not because he has multiple disabilities, but
Hmm.
and probably he could.
Okay. Now, what's N's speciality?
Right now it's music, so he's getting really good at drums and he's learning guitar. He also likes anything that has to do with cars.
Okay. So if he were to focus, so let's say we're talking about maybe he wants to become a mechanic.
Right.
I've had dyslectics so what you would have to do is send him to a 2-year community college and become AFC certified.
Okay.
All right. The kid, I just call this the trades, head and hands jobs.
Uh-huh.
The second student I worked with, his name was Adam. He was a 19-year-old high school senior, and his teacher said he is just a genius. You can just tell.
Uh-huh.
We took him from doing horrendous to the 70th percentile. He failed the state regents with a 47 and a 52. That's their final writing test. And he went on to college. He got B's in Composition 101 and 102. Then he decided to go into the union for boiler makers. Like, schools have these boilers to heat everything.
Uh-huh. Right.
He was in that union to fix them.
Uh,
They called him in on vacation. He said, "Sorry, it took me a day and a half to figure this out. This was tough. There was a contract the school had with a union to get this done for X amount of dollars, and they
uh-huh.
couldn't figure out how to fix it for a month. He
Right.
did it in a day and a half."
Yeah.
So when we're in our speciality, it's unfair because we've been working on it so long that's all we care about.
Uh-huh.
Our classmates become well-rounded. We're just really good specialists.
Right.
That's the unfair advantage of being dyslectic.
Right. But that's also why I homeschool because we can gear towards their
Hmm.
speciality and not have to force
Exactly.
them into a box. If this is the way you want to go and this is your speciality, then let's do it.
Yes, and what you just want to give them is the opportunity to do what they want to do, so not to be limited. Because I've talked to some parents, and I said, "Listen, let's just agree on what our job is. We want to give your kid, if they want to go on to a solid 4-year school, and I always recommend you start off at a community college, then transfer to your state flagship university,
Uh-huh.
because you don't want to go broke or stay at the local university that's state.
Right.
And then if you have to get the Ivy League credentials, do it in a master's degree where you can do it in a year or two, and it's a lot less expensive.
Uh-huh.
You don't need to go to Harvard and Yale. One degree at Harvard's enough." Or if your kid just wants to do head and hands, they are going to a community college, because these are not our granddad manufacturing jobs.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of machines that are doing the work, and you have to work with the machines. How do I know that? Because my area started doing this and putting this into a community college 26 years ago.
Mm.
And the people that are getting these jobs, there's 5 or 6 offers per graduate. And after they've been around for a while, it's a 6-figure position.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, and these kids excel at it. So we want to give them the option.
Right.
But what I just described, if you can do that, that's great. That'll get you through a community college.
Uh-huh.
If you're looking to go to a 4-year college, you really do need to know the problem statement and the solution, so that, because that's what the professors want. And then when you go out there into the real world, AI is getting so incredibly productive.
Yeah.
If you know the craft of research, I've had students go into places where they hate AI, and within weeks, they're training their peers on how to do it because they're thrown in. And I would just say, just talk to it, type with it. I don't care what model you use. Come up with context and come up with problem, come up with a solution. I showed you this in high school. You practice in college for 4 or 5 years. So they'd go, figure it out, bump around, and then they'd say, okay, here's how you do it. And they would just go context, problem, solution to their peers. And they're like, context, problem, what? They're like, didn't you do this in college and grad school? No. So we had to teach them the craft of research, show them what it is, and now they're so much more profoundly effective. I don't care what happens with AI. If you
Uh-huh.
can do that, you're going to be great. If you can't, it's not going to be good.
Right. I have a question for you. Um,
Mhm.
so are you familiar with like the right brain learning?
I'm familiar with the concept. Here's my disagreement with
Okay.
that. I'm just going to go back.
Right.
This doesn't work. This works. Let's focus on this.
Mm-hmm.
Speciality specific to the general, word analysis followed by articulation. I
Right.
just find that works better than anything else I've seen out there.
Right. Okay. Because that's what we've been doing with our son, our 13-year-old, and that's where we've seen a great
Hmm.
deal of improvement. But
Yes.
what you're saying makes sense, and I'm gonna totally implement it into our.
Well, the other thing is with what I do, the older the kid is, the quicker they
Mhm.
pick it up. I'm just giving you example of what Kimberly did. Reed was at he was at the 11th percentile and 4th percentile, and now he's above average.
Right.
And that was done in, call it 6 months, call it 8 months, whatever you want.
Hmm.
All right, an hour and a half a week. He's in public school doing just fine, getting mostly A's and B's, occasional C here or there. He's
Right.
functionally fine.
Right.
Okay. The best dyslexic schools can't do it that quick. This was
Right.
essentially a 1 semester implementation.
Right.
Okay. Now, Kimberly's going through some family crisis. Once that is over, we'll go back, and she started doing the more advanced stuff that I told you about.
Right.
And when we get done with that, once we get done with, the topic sentence, the warrant, and the 2 quotes, there are some things in our paid courses. We're just about put our courses up on a learning platform called school.com,
Mhm.
and they'll be up in a few weeks. And we're putting them on there. We're pricing it $147 a month, but it's not your standard. Here's your video lessons and written material. Go off and do it.
Uh-huh.
And then if you want any help, it's $5 billion or something ridiculous. We're not doing that. We're setting it up where there's an hour to 90-minute webinar each week with a certified teacher named Angela, who's a certified elementary school teacher, taught for over a decade. When her daughter was born, she became a homeschooling religious mom, and she's bringing her son, August, through this. Okay. And she's there to answer questions each week.
Okay.
And we're going to take kids from basic sentences all the way through what we're doing with Grayson, all the way through really advanced stuff. With him, as I said, we're going to have him pitch the idea to a journal.
Uh-huh.
And when they reject him, then go to a professor. And I think the guy will be like, what the heck? You're like 8 years ahead of where you're supposed to be.
Right. So
And
is your program
yeah.
set up more for the student or more for the
Oh no,
parent?
we train the parents to train the kids.
Okay.
Okay. Because the simple reason is, I think, what you found. If you wanted to if you wanted to become certified Norton Gillingham,
Uh-huh.
because that's what the millionaires use. If Bill Gates had grandkids with dyslexia, that's what he would do.
Right.
The Gowell School that's celebrating its 100th anniversary. If you have a kid who has the brains and motivation to go to college, you send them there at 5th grade. It's a boarding school outside of Buffalo, New York, until they're a senior. And if they belong in the Ivy League, they send them to an Ivy League or schools right below that. I've
Uh-huh.
talked to a number of their graduates who are excelling at Ivy League schools. They've been doing this for 100 years. They're 80,000 a year to live on campus. If you get the scholarship, it comes down to about 60.
Wow.
Or if you want to become certified in that approach, it's 2 years after a bachelor's degree and $11,000 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Who has that time and money to put into this?
Right.
So we set it up that way so you can work with your kids, go at your paces. Most parents just do 10 to 15-minute sessions a couple of times a week. Sometimes you do nothing. Sometimes you do more. And
Okay.
we're just there each week to answer your questions because I'll give you a little hint. Most parents ask the same questions.
Hmm. Okay.
And we have a community when we get it up there. Just, what I'm doing, I'm having Angela put up a course. And I'm also working with another podcaster I met. Her name's Jackie. She's an adjunct professor of curriculum design at Grand Canyon University, and she teaches at the master's level how to put up curriculums.
Mm-hmm.
She's putting up one as well, so parents can pick which one they like.
Okay. That sounds very promising. I'm gonna definitely check this out. Um, and like I said, re-listen to our podcast and take notes and start implementing this. And I will definitely check out your site. And I'm very interested because the whole reason why I started homeschooling in the first place, we have 8 kids, and our oldest son was struggling in school. And I said, there's no reason why he should be struggling in school. He's very smart. He takes encyclopedias to bed and memorizes all these facts. And so I said, there's no reason why he should be falling behind in school.
Hmm.
And so I taught all of my kids have been homeschooled one point or the other. But the 3 that I have at home, they're never going to go back into public school. But so I try to educate myself to meet their needs. And that's one of the great things about homeschooling is
Oh, it absolutely is. And if here's an issue I run with homeschooling kids,
okay,
and the research bears this out. One of the strongest indicators of how well your kid will learn is the student to teacher ratio. Public schools, it's, I don't know, like 18 to 35 per
mm,
teacher per
mm,
room. The specialized schools, it's 4 to 1, 5 to 1. For parents, it's normally 1 to 1 or a couple to 1.
right,
So what I found with homeschooling kids is, remember I said I recommend that you start off at a community college to get through all those gen ed classes you have to take. It's a lot easier going through that than your flagship state university system,
right,
flagship campus. And then here's the other thing. You don't have to take the SAT or ACT.
exactly.
Okay. And then it's much easier to transfer than doing all this stuff in high school. It's just much
Mhm.
easier. So as you do that, homeschooling kids, I have seen them ready for homeschooling at 16 to go to the community college. I've seen it at 14.
Uh-huh,
And what homeschooling parents, especially religious homeschooling parents, have to understand is your son ready for this?
right,
They're much more concerned about their daughters because I I have seen very sheltered girls. They were 14. The parents were like, "Can we send her to the community college?" And I was like, "They're going to offer her drugs. They're going to
right,
offer her beer, and they're
right,
going to want." I'm not going into it. All
right,
right. And is she ready for that? And they said, no. And I said,
uh-huh,
okay. Then I suggest you do the online courses for history, English, just the stuff that's outside their speciality
uh-huh,
and just get through it. They're not going to learn a lot, but just get through it.
right,
All right. And let them focus on what they like. And they found that to be a compromise. They found that it's easier on their sons because it's just easier for boys. Give you a little hint, college girls aren't running after college boys, but it's the other way around, as you know. So they can go a little bit early, but are they ready to say no to the booze and to the alcohol and
right,
to the drugs that they might be offered? And if they're not, stay online.
right,
When you think they are ready, then okay.
mhm,
And there's a huge maturity gap when you go from 14 to 15. Every year the kids become much more mature, much more settled in
exactly,
themselves.
right,
So when you think they're ready, a lot of times I'll just tell you what happens. The parents will send them at 16. either online or on campus.
Hmm.
And then by the time they get to be 18 and then go on, they can take 12 credits a semester. That's
Okay.
the key for dyslexics to be successful. Taking 12 is much better than 15 or 18.
Mhm.
And it just allows, because they're not going to finish in 4 years. It's going to take 5.
Right, right. Exactly. Well, this has been very informative and I appreciate your time. And I really think that this is going to help other parents with their children. And I hope that people check out your site and your program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.